Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is leading aircraft woman Portia Kafka. We warmly welcome the family of Private William Swainger, whose story will be told shortly. And we also acknowledge those family members watching the broadcast of this ceremony online. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching this ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is the spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private William Swainger. William Swainger was born in 1890, the youngest of 3 sons born to Francis and Ellen Swainger of the Melbourne suburb of Richmond. Known as Willie to his family and friends, Swainger attended Richmond Central School and later found employment as a process worker with Ansell Rubber. Swainger enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 2nd of August 1915 in Melbourne. His older brother Henry also tried to enlist, but as he was married with a child, he was told at the recruitment centre to go home and reconsider. After enlisting, William Swainger became engaged to his sweetheart, Margaret Morris, the sister of his brother Henry's wife, Ellen. After training, Swainger sailed from Australia for service overseas with the reinforcements of the 8th Infantry Battalion. He was too late to take part in the Gallipoli campaign, but instead went to Egypt for a period known as the doubling of the AIF, when new recruits were mixed with Gallipoli veterans to form expanded units headed for the Western Front. Swainger transferred to the 6th Infantry Battalion, which was part of the 2nd Brigade of the 1st Australian Division. In March 1916, he sailed for France. Swainger's first major battle on the Western Front came at the Battle of Pozières, near the Somme River. In this battle, the Australian 1st Division, of which Swainger was part, suffered over 5,200 casualties between the 23rd and 27th of July. In November 1916, the 6th Battalion was resting and training behind the lines after spending time in the trenches at Gerdecourt, north of the Somme River, when Swainger was hospitalised with an illness known as trench foot. Trench foot was a serious and painful condition caused by spending too long standing in the wet and muddy conditions so common on the Western Front. Swainger's injuries were so severe that he went to England for recovery and did not rejoin his unit until September 1917, when they were resting and training behind the lines at Steenvoorde in Belgium. On the 4th of October 1917, just days after he returned to his unit, Swainger and the 6th Battalion took part in the Battle of Broodsinder, part of a larger campaign now known as the Third Battle of Ypres. In this battle, Australian troops, in conjunction with New Zealand and British forces, attacked over a wide area to take an important ridge near the trenches. In the early hours of the 4th of October, Swainger and his unit moved to forward positions in preparation for their attack. At about 4:30 a.m., as they lay in shell holes preparing to advance, they came under heavy German artillery and mortar fire. All they could do was remain where they lay and try to outlast the bombardment. They suffered heavy casualties. At 6 a.m., the British launched a major bombardment of the German lines, and the Australian troops jumped out of their shell holes into no man's land. The battle was a success, but came at a heavy price. The men who had survived the mortar barrage before they advanced faced heavy German, high-explosive shrapnel artillery fire, as well as strong resistance from German pillboxes. Australian forces lost 6,500 casualties, killed, wounded and missing at Broodsinder. Among the dead was Private William Swainger, probably killed during the German mortar attack or by enemy machine gun fire. He was 27 years old. He was originally buried with 3 other soldiers near where he fell at Zonnebaker. After the war, his body was moved to a larger cemetery at Oosthavenaar Wood Cemetery in Belgium. After he was moved, his body could not be positively distinguished from that of another soldier, Private John Turner, so the 2 Australian soldiers now lie side by side, each with a grave that reads, "Buried near this spot." Swainger's fiancée Margaret was devastated by the news of his death and left numerous messages of grief in local newspapers. In November 1917, she wrote, "My sacrifice is in what I have lost, his in what he gave." She never married and died in 1952. Private William Swainger's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private William Swainger, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We'll remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We'd like to thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial. Wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.